so much, Sapphire, for hosting us on this wonderful platform. And thank you all of the people who have signed in and listening on this wonderful morning. My name is Merril. I'm a partner with KPMG. As mentioned earlier, I have been with the firm for around 14 years. Almost all of that has been in the field of information security, cyber security, etc. Another hat that I also wear is that of being the BCM coordinator and the lead BCM SME for KPMG for India. The interesting part about that is the juxtaposition. I mean, both of these roles, lead me to understand that cyber security and the starting of incidents within cyber security that can actually bring down networks and stop companies from operating. One and two have a huge impact on the leakage of data, both company data and personal data, have parallels. And, there have been things that I've picked up from one side and put on the other and so on and so forth. But having enough about me, I just wanted to introduce the rest of the panelists to you as well. While I do that, what I would start by requesting the panelists is also, I would go ahead, put out a few opening statements that set a context for this whole discussion around cyber incident response planning. And I would request the esteemed panelists to also do the same. Post that, what I would say is, we would take the conversation in a sort of question-answer mode, where I would bounce a couple of questions off the panelists. I would direct it to individuals, but if the question is of interest to the other, feel free to jump in. I will try and jump in with my examples as well. So, the first thing that, like I said earlier, and again, as the speaker before me said, there is an overwhelming reliance on IT, ITES, and data for most of the organizations that are operating today. Having said that, in these days of COVID and the fact that most of us are doing this from home, the actual cyber incident plan, the importance has actually gone up. Why? Because one, there has been a change in the both attack fabric, which is basically what the attacker takes or looks at to get into our system, and also in the nature of the threat actor or the attacker. So what are these two things? The first part of the attack fabric, it has changed because of the increased adoption of cloud and star as a service solutions that we have started taking up. Suddenly our posture has changed from being facing outward to actually we have to start looking at the threats inside. The example I give to many of my clients is like, if all of you have played cricket as a kid and you've played with a rubber ball, the rubber ball has the cricket rubber ball has a seam outside. It's a rough outside. You can use it to spin. But imagine if I took that rubber ball and turned it inside out. Those of us who have played cricket enough would know that the inside part of the rubber ball is absolutely smooth. Correct? It's not what you expected it to be, and therefore you can't spin it as much, you can't bounce it as much. The whole characteristics of the ball changes. It's exactly the same in cybersecurity today, because now the threats are not coming from outside. You have our endpoints which are sitting at homes, and the same endpoints are now sharing both Wi-Fi with the home. It's also sharing behavior with other members of the home. You would have people using the same endpoint, be it a laptop, be it a computer, be it a desktop, or even tablets, and these people are using that for shopping, gaming, and so on and so forth. So the attack fabric has changed. You are expecting attacks from outside. The nature of the attacker has also changed. The nature of the attacker has changed from being a script kiddie or probably somebody who's just out to prove a point to very well, trained, very well, I would say, mal-intentioned people who are out to actually bring corporations down to make a really large sum of money, and in many cases, even state actors, right? And that could be something that we need to look at. There is also a huge amount of data that we carry, and the fact that we have this data makes us lucrative targets, right? The kind of data that we hold is one, IP data, stuff that our company has made, two, stuff that our companies are helping our clients to make. Both of these are extremely valuable outside there. Apart from that, for all of us in the B2C or B2B2C kind of business, we hold a bunch of consumer data. In today's day and age, private information, or what we call PI/sensitive, personal information, has started becoming extremely important from a regulatory standpoint. The regulator has started taking a very stringent view on this, and therefore that is another reason why our incident response plans to any breach of that kind of data that happens is also going to become important. And finally, there is also in certain sectors regulatory pushes towards securing certain kinds of data. For instance, in the financial sector, you would want to keep information about undisclosed price-sensitive information secret. Otherwise, you again face punitive measures by the regulators. So this is the sort of environment out there. This is the sort of area that I'd like to cover in today's discussion. Mr. Navaneethan, would you want to give your opening statements and probably put your point of view across, and then we'll take over after Mr. Pravin.
Amazing, Merril. Thank you so much for setting up a stage with a great thought, and then as well as covering complete threat landscapes from end to end. Moreover, as rightly you pointed out, the things have changed. See, earlier stages, if you see, maybe I can talk about 6 months back, where we are thinking to cover a completely holistic approach of cybersecurity enforcements. Even though not much, work from home, not much, things are distributed, but however, we want to protect the organizations in the very holistic way. Now it is absolutely distributed, right? Earlier, people are talking about only the cloud environment. Now, the people at home, people at road, people can work from anywhere else. So not only that threat factor, right? Second one is really people have started to get into their BYD. They can access complete corporate network, corporate infrastructure by using their own set of devices. That creates a lot of stuff. See, mostly, as you pointed out, it's not only protecting organization. Now, most of the CISOs, most of the, the head of the cybersecurity, they have extended their hand to protect their home networks. Because the home network, as you rightly pointed out, in terms of the Wi-Fi or the SSID, once it is hacked, then the people can get into the network. Then what are the VPN you establish? Even the hackers also go in the very, stealth mode to land on, your network actually. So that's a very most of the CISOs. So now we are, putting hands together to protect not only organizations, but protecting the home network also. It's on the bigger way. And the next major point is on the spear phishing. Of course, infrastructure side, one side. Of course, we'll talk in detail. But other ways, most of the things it's happening on the spear phishing. It's like a belt archetype. Like earlier and all the email, it comes from the the third party. It comes from the some other spoofing email. Now all the emails it comes from the very genuine stuff. Like let us take a World Health Organizations. It's a close to 1,000 emails. It has been hacked, and then they put it on the public forum with their credentials. It's not only they have used the credential, right? It's like just to put it on the public places. Like really, we are not sure who are all access, and then when they have changed the password, and then now they're putting in terms of multi-factor authentications and all this stuff and all. But however, by using it, if I get this email, because always if you see this today's scenario, every day close to 17,000 domain being created. It's a purely related to the COVID, and then purely related to the status, purely related to the help on the COVID, recovery, economic status. That's all the things which is related to the the COVID and then the corona stuff. It's a 17,000 plus. Then it is a huge in terms of the impact from the end to end. So as a security head, as maybe as a organization, so CXP level, always they strongly dependent on the trusted email. That's what we are instructed. What are the email you are touching? Please ensure that it's coming from the trusted. Of course, they go and check it's coming from the World Health Organizations. They click on that, and things are going on the the different directions. So that's a very the first foremost opening comment is from the security standpoint. Really, we have to protect the organization as well as the home, and not only the security folks is warrior. Really, each and every employee is a warrior. Each and every home members that family also it's a warrior, right? What my daughter does is very important. What my wife does is important, because we both are connected on the same wireless access point. So now it's become more responsible and then accountable across the family as well as across the overall organization. So I'll leave it to you, Merril. We'll discuss more and great stuff.
Thank you so much, Mr. Navaneethan. You have actually brought out a very, a topic very close to my heart, at least, and I'm sure to all the security professionals. When you live in a family and you tend to have, one password for your browser, one different password for, the admin on your router, have computers Mac bounded to your router simply because you are information security professionals. What I've seen is the family pushes back saying, "Are you mad? Why do you have to have so many passwords?" And it's very difficult to convince the layperson what's really out there, right? And that's the
Absolutely.
battle we all fight. And thank you so much for bringing that up, Mr. Navneethan. Really, really fascinating. Now, Mr. Pravin, over to you. You are, from your position as being the global head of assurance at Barclays, and being in a industry which traditionally has been highly regulated, and now suddenly you've turned that industry on the head by saying, earlier you were supposed to work within the premises. Too much of information that was supposed to be, not leaving, forget the premises, but not even, leaving the room. And you were talking about clean rooms. Now you've moved to a place where you're all working from home. In that context, if you could throw some light around the subject, and then we will take it to question and answers. Over to you, Mr. Pravin. You're on mute.
Hey, can you hear me now,
Yes,
right?
we can.
Okay, great. Okay, good morning, everyone, and good morning, Cherian and Navaneethan. Thank you for giving me this opportunity, Sapphire Connect. Okay, what we are talking about? We are talking about the incident response plan, or we are talking about the cyber resilience, right? And hope everyone agrees that this is more relevant in today's scenario. Why it is more relevant? Let's try to be very very fundamental. Let's understand this thing fundamentally, right? And I'll try to not to be very techy guys today, because I understand that there are audience who are not very very much familiar about the cyber security and the router, the phishing, the that Navneet what he talked about, the spear phishing, etc. I want to be very, very, very fundamental and basic in today's discussion. Let's understand what got changed last 6 months, right, during this pandemic. I think there are three parties in this entire ecosystem. One is the remote worker like you, me, and everyone. Second is the customer who has been asking services from your uninterrupted digital channel, and there is pressure on the organization like where we work with, like Barclays and KPMG, all these organizations, and they are in tremendous pressure to keep these services on uninterrupted, right? So these are the three party, and fortunately, unfortunately, the pace what we moved on the digital channel or working from home or even end worker awareness, etc. This was not on the choice by choice. It was rather we did not have much option, and there has been joke that this digital adoption is thanks to pandemic that we have moved this digital adoption so fast, right? And this is the again blessing in disguise kind of things. Right? What exactly happened? This is what I try to understand, and I was just thinking, that what exactly happened for remote worker, right? We rather yes, working with the multinational or kind of IT company. Yes, most of the worker are sometimes work from home, but most of the people, I can say that 80% workers are not used to even rather never dream that they will work 6 months, 5 months from home, right, in this room kind of thing, with using his or her personal computer. And they were not even trained that what is a basic hygiene, right? How to keep update the antivirus in his or her system, and how to use the Wi-Fi, how to use the secure video channel, right? And they just get the link and click that. Okay, it's done. It's working. They never think that, and this is the reality, right? 80% worker are fall in that category. I worked with LIC, and I was talking with one of my LIC friend. He was checking with me because I got the Zoom. Zoom, you are using Zoom unsecure or no? This has been told to you download Zoom. Not even the organizational procured license to one Zoom, right? And this is the reality, right? And even the school and almost all the organizations are using the unsecured channel to communicate to their customer and their worker. The second part on the organization side, right? They also have the tremendous pressure, as I said, right? Uh, they never tested their infrastructure. They never tested their VPN connection. They never tested their, kind of the privilege ID management in this scenario, or user access management. They would, for them also, this is a very new experience, and the cyber security professor working for those organizations, they also never thought in that way that, so we do the regression testing, we do the, but we never had such kind of regression testing in my mind that this will also work, right? Yeah, we do the BCP testing, DR testing for 1 hour or 1 day maximum, right? For 6 months, no, at least I had never thought on that, right? And the same way the customer has been asking uninterrupted services. What happened together with all these three different demand, request, the circumstances, we created pressure on the cyber security hygiene. Let's accept this fact first, because cyber resilience and incident response planning is all about the accepting the mindset. It's not that when we'll be attacked or compromised, uh, if we'll be compromised. It's all about when we'll get compromised, right? That we at least being a cyber security professional, I accept this fact that anytime we can get that attack, and that attack might be successful. Once we accept this fact, then only we can handle these three different ecosystem component, that how we can strengthen to get the cyber hygiene in place, and what are the basic fundamental things we can correct, so that to largest extent we'll be more cyber resilient, or we can have the robust incident response planning. Again, going back to these three components. For remote user, the basic training is required, the basic health check of his or system is required, the basic understanding that on the how to connect the Wi-Fi, how to go to the source of security, how not to use the source of security like Facebook, etc., through using those computers, etc. Basic, that awareness kind of session is required. This is what we launched in big way, right? Working from, we have created the checklist, we have given the number of training, we have created the special cell where anyone can ring, write a mail, get the support done immediately. So this is one point. On the customer front, again, as I said, right, people are sending, or cyber attacker are sending different mail or phishing mail kind of thing to their customer, right? And that customer awareness is also very important. And you have most of the like bank, HDFC, ICICI, they have been sending this customer awareness mail, etc. Yesterday only I got a mail that not mail and WhatsApp chat, please use this application, then you need not to buy to the oximeter to check your oxygen level, right? And people, and in my group most of the people have installed that app and this was purely a kind of attack, right? And somehow they got compromised on that. So this is how it's happening. And on the organizer side, I've already told you. So now coming to the basic thing, that incident response planning, how to strengthen, or how to be more resilient. As I said, the basic thing, I'll give you the 3-4 things, but there are many more. I have the number of big checklist, but yes, user access management is very, very important. Privilege ID management, VPN, secure connection. This is the first and fundamental things we have to. You don't have any option but to strengthen that. This is the first thing. Second thing, that patching is very important, and during this pandemic area, this is increased cyber attack environment. Patching and legacy application and system is very important, and you have to monitor continuously on this. Third thing, as I said, that awareness or people is the weakest link. You have to focus on your worker, your end user, and the weakest link. And the fourth, which is the SOC. Again, empowering the SOC, automation, bringing the automation on incident, continuous monitoring, threat hunting. This is again very technical, but yes, in summary, strengthening the SOC is very, very important, and that you should be rather you must be increasing the manpower to manage your SOCs. In this last 6 months, this is what we have done. That 24/7 was already there, but we went to the very, very detailed level about all the alarms. Earlier we used to see only incident and the correlation and kind of thing. Even we are monitoring the pattern of alarm. We are also using our source or orchestration on automation response system to do the automation kind of the and also the BCP part and the bounce back quickly. This is again very important. And earlier we used to do DR testing once in 3 months. Now I started doing it once in 15 days. That is, all our backup is working, all our system is working, HA mode, red mode, infrastructure, application, people, process, technology, whatever we talk, and we have the big cluster framework. So this is how we are doing. Cherian, let me know if you have any question, or otherwise you can move to the next agenda.
No, thank you so much. I think that was a really, really nice overview of what has changed and what your organization is doing, to address that change. I'll go into a series of questions. Navaneethan, I'll pass the first question on to you. Right? So, in your role, especially being the CISO of a very large B2C organization, have you seen the a change in the nature of incidents post COVID, and two, has there been an increase? If the answer is yes to either, what do you think is causing this change?
Amazing, Merril. That's a well articulated questions, as well as really everybody's looking forward it, right? If you see this, most of the domains, like if in terms of job opportunity, like all the domains really they are in the crisis. I mean, they are coming to the laying off and all this stuff. But security is a domain where this time, this pandemic situations play very significant role from end to end. In terms of contributions or in terms of adding value to the organization as well as the individual life. See, as Pravin had mentioned, the earlier stages, if you come across the BCP all the time, they will have a 20% of that. That's what the BCP standards requested, right? Just identified crown jewel and then identified which is a critical infrastructure for you. Test for 20%. It's maybe again for a few hours, a few days. That's maybe the city to city, country to country, or maybe location to location. That's the way it works. And now, the entire situations, the entire all scenarios, it's happened actually. So that's the way the BCP situations where the people mindset was for the 20%. They are not prepared for the 100%. That's what it is. The major struggle. And then in terms of incidents, a two-way, right? One is the incident, whatever it has happened on the early stages, like you take in terms of maybe Facebook or Twitter or LinkedIn or anything Capital One or maybe anything on social media, Dove Smash or the Twitter or whatever it is, the incident which has happened. Of course, the incident has happened at the time also, but it was a purely organization centric. All the incident. Now it's a purely the user centric. They talk at us now. We don't need any other high-funded technologies or all hacking tools or going through the kill chain mechanisms or going through MITRE attack. No, it may not required. It's absolutely how to play with the human psychology, how to play with the human behavior. Then we can get into the the respective organization. So that's most of the attack, most of the the incident. It's happening on the user centric, not on the organization's way. Because once you talk about the user, then I'm able to penetrate into the organization, and then I can get into the the area where I wanted to focus. Second point is, in terms of if you take yearly, I'm sitting back 6 months back. Always the people think the SOC Security Operations Center is purely luxury, and the first enforced all the controls. But the SOC controls or the SOC infrastructure is where the people have certain revenue or a certain kind of data, certain regulatory push, then only we need a SOC. But absolutely, it's not a real case, right? Always, nobody have a silver bullet. Anytime anything can happen. But how soon you detect, act is very important. As you rightly pointed out, in terms of the human body, like if there is a disease or something, how soon you detect and then get into the respective medications, then you will be recovered from the the respective scenario. The similar way, The SOC is, it's not only on the detecting mechanism, it's always, it will acting as in the prevention mechanisms. It's based on the use cases, and then based on the scenarios that you have, and then based on the analysis you have it. And then it should not be a name shake, like for the 4 hours, 8 hours, 12 hours SLA we have it. Then we can work out, in terms of response to the respective incident. It's not like that actually, right? Because as an incident happened, if you see this, target is the one, it has to create eye opener for us, right? Earlier, the people are not part of board meeting. But after target incident happened, then everybody's, they open. I mean, something really we have to need attention where we need to be take care of. There's one more baby called cybersecurity, which is a business enabler, which really add value for the the organizations. Because the target also same way, right? It's an incident which just keep happening. But in terms of November to December 5, it's a Black Friday and then all this stuff. So the people thought it's like because of overwhelming sales and other things that they ignore this complete the incident. So that's the way it is, the complete how soon you detect and how soon you act. It's very important. That's most of the organization is missing. Third factor is how many of us really we monitor the VPN traffic. Right now we are talking about the VPN traffic. Once we have a VPN, it's maybe on your home network or maybe from BOID or maybe office provider infrastructure where you establish the complete stuff, and then you will be land up securely. I mean, end-to-end channel is secure, and then you will land up in your organization. That's a really we are not sure how many people will monitor the VPN traffic. It's very simple things. As in introductory talk, you have mentioned it's attack is not only from external, it's from the internal also. See, most of the threats, most of the exploits, if you see this, it's like internally it's happening, which is a well-known part of the team. So this, if you see this, a number of the attack, it's everything on the in terms of million. I mean, today news also on the Forbes, close to 300 million user database of TikTok, and then a couple of other social platform it has leaked over there actually. If you see the attacks, it's not on the in terms of hundreds or thousands or lakhs. It goes on the millions, right? If you want to take out the data from the millions, really we need a solid connections. It's not just the one or two just randomly picked up. Just you are picking up. It's a bunch of huge volume of data. How it is happening? It's absolutely on the VPN. So that's why the VPN has two side of coins. It is really we need a very strong monitoring, like what is being accessed by using that VPN. And fourth point is, in terms of VPN, really the people need a very deep understanding. Once you created the VPN, as Pravin told, the pandemic situation really we have taken us into the digital transformations. What are the organizations they had stand on their own. Now it's another way it has moved into the different situation. But on this distributions, like once you establish a VPN, your endpoint is protected, perfectly, it's fine. But once you landed on the VPN, your organization, where you are giving the access. If I'm a marketing guy, really I should give access to the VLAN of a production. No, it may not be. If I'm a testing guy, I should have access to the where we have a PNL. It may not be. So those really on the ground of segregation is missing. That's what they have a common VPN. Like just I have a VPN tunnel. They go and land on the common network. Whatever they wanted to access, they can access. So that level of the controls really which needs to be focused in terms of detection as well as in terms of the preventions from end to end.
Sure, Mr. Navaneethan, you brought about a really important topic. The one about how do we address access once somebody lands into our network, which is something that I've seen is actually lacking in many VPN installations, right? The funny thing, when I went to recount something from my past as a business continuity person, I recall working for this large, Indian subsidiary of a huge consumer markets company, where they decided on a day when the government had suddenly declared a holiday because of some verdict of the Supreme Court, half day, right? And when everybody was supposed to go home, they decided to test their business continuity plan. The thing that they did was the minute the holiday was declared, they also sent a message out to all their critical resources saying, why don't you all log into the VPN? We will now test our BCP. And the funny thing that happened was by the time the critical resources reached home, the VPN bandwidth was completely hogged by non-critical resources who landed up home on a holiday, but decided to work simply because it was possible to work. Right? And that's one part, and that's something that we saw during the beginning of this crisis as well, where companies had to grapple to make sure the VPN pipe was strong enough. We fixed that problem, and the VPN pipe is now strong. Now we have to fix the problem of who all has access after you land through that pipe into the organization to prevent lateral movement of an attacker, or maybe even vertical movement of an attacker once he's in. So that's a very, very great point that you raise. Mr. Navaneethan, I'll come back. I'm sorry, Mr. Pravin, I'll come back to you on another question. You touch upon another interesting topic, which is close to my heart, which is basically the duration of a cyber incident plan nowadays. Right. So I again go back to my BCP days. It's not technically a cyber incident, but when we used to plan for business outages, we used to say business outages should be planned for the time was the whole what you call a maximum allowable downtime, or an RTO which comes smaller than that. And most companies used to plan for 5 days, because we used to think it's unthinkable for our organizations not to be available for 5 days. We did that all the way down to I think 2017, when a bunch of IT companies in Chennai were hit by the Chennai floods. The Chennai floods did not last for 5 days; they last for 7 days. Correct, and it was due to superhuman effort by the BCP people, by the cyber teams, to actually get the networks up and running and keep them running through that point. And then we started planning for, okay, if 7 days is possible, let's plan for an outer limit of a month. And most of the BCP plans we had were 1 month. Now we are in 6 months of a BCP plan, right? And through that, even the cyber incident monitoring also has to take a front seat through that process, right? So 2 questions to you, Mr. Pravin. One, how are you looking at things like concentration risk nowadays on your endpoints, which are used to connect back to home? Because earlier, when they were all sitting inside your organization, concentration risk could be taken care of, you putting people in 2 different places and so on and so forth. But now the concentration risk is on the electricity connection back to their houses, on the ISPs back to their houses. Most people do not have 2 ISPs, right? Or 2 ISPs that work really well. How are you dealing with that? That's the first question. The second question I have for you is around the cyber incident plans as well. How has this changed? The fact that there is a predominance of the attacker now to hit the employee and his awareness of what should be done. How are you dealing with that aspect? So 2 questions.
Okay, let me answer second question first. Okay, and as I said, today I'll try to not to be very technical. Okay, I'll give you one analogy to understand this cyber incident response planning or cyber resilience framework. Right, we all work for a company, right, and the motive of everyone is to continue, right, to get bread and butter of this work and kind of thing, to continue as till we get the better opportunity in life. And definitely this is also fact that most of us survive, right, in this pandemic, because everyone is afraid that then we'll get the pink slip kind of thing. This is also true. So how do we manage, right, individual continuity? Let's try to understand, and then we'll replicate the same theory in the corporate world as well, right? We first, following the NIST, the cybersecurity framework, we identify and detect the threat, right? And in day-to-day work life, how do we identify and detect those threats? That whether my boss is okay, is giving any feedback, and my colleague is giving kind of feedback, my directors, kind of thing. You keep listening, or you are very sensitive or aware about what's happening around your ecosystem, and you detect and identify those threats. You also understand your total threat surface, the threat vectors, and you profile those threat surface and threat vector. Okay, these people may harm me in future, right? And this is the fact of life. People do consciously and consciously, not in very planned way like organization do in cyber resilience framework, but we do that in our mind. Then once we identify and detect those threats, then we try to protect ourselves, right? How do you protect yourself? By keeping away yourself from those bad actors, kind of creating some kind of wall in between, and so that these people will not be able to harm you, getting the boss confidence, your manager confidence, kind of thing. Those are the 3-4 very known activity we do to protect yourself. But despite doing identification, detection, protection kind of it, there is always chance to get the pink slip, or ask you to go to the other location or do some different work kind of thing, which you feel that I'm attacked or I'm victimized or whatever you. Then what you do, you activate your response system, or you got recoverable, right? Recoverability, right? And then you either upgrade yourself, you get the certification, or you go to the LinkedIn, ping to other guys and kind of thing, or you go and talk to your boss, and this is all part of your response mechanism. Once the response is over, then you go to the kind of thing that how you can recover from those attacks, right? So these are the 5 fundamental in this talk, and this is exactly happened in our organization as well, right? We have, and this is very interesting, my personal finding, it may not be correct, we used to more focus on the detect, identification, protect kind of solution, or technology more than the recovered technology. I know. If you see that only 15 to 20% we used to invest on the recover, other 80% is more on the detection and protection. But this is again very eye opener for all of us, and being security professionals, I'm sure the most of the security professionals will agree that somehow this particular was ignored. This particular security, you can say cyber security component was ignored on the protection part. We that respond part and recovery part, and then we started focusing, rebalancing our framework, the budgeting process and kind of thing. We strengthen the respond and the recovery. So in fundamental, what is all about the cyber resiliency? To give the no, rather push back to your attacker to maximize it, so that effort would be very high to attack your system. If at all they are successful attacking you, then how quickly you can bounce back. So these are the 2 fundamentals, and we monitor the KPI of this, that how tough is for any attacker to attack, and we monitor that KPI very on a day-to-day basis, how we are making tough for them to attack us. And once this is also reality, because as I talked about, this is all about mindset, that once they are successful, how we quickly can bounce back, right? How we quickly can recover from that attack. That metrics also we monitor. And this is not the job of police cyber security professional, that how quickly you can recover. You have to create a ecosystem. You have to get the support from your business, from your database team, from your infrastructure team, from your remote user team, the privilege, identity and access management, and create a steering committee or kind of empowered group on the recovery side or the response side, so that you will be able to better understand the impact, be able to understand the logs, able to understand the severity of that incident, and then quickly you can activate your response planning.
Sure.
This is how in a very high level we are doing, and I can go to the very specific and technical, but I'll pause here. Hope I answered you, say, Mr. Merril, your question. Coming to your first question, just quickly, I don't think there is confrontation risk as of now, right? Because people are spread and using their laptops in different part of world. This is not much of concern for now. The concentration more on the recovery part and the response part. Yeah.
Sure. Thank you so much, Mr. Pravin. I have been getting these messages from the organizers that we have around 15 minutes left. So what I'll do is I'll just jump into a bunch of questions that have come in from our audience. Mr. Durgesh Prabhakar Sharma has asked a question that in many ways I feel he has answered himself. He says, I know that there is no one-size-fits-all approach, but he's still asking, how often does an organization should conduct a BCDR drill, and for how long should the drill be? Mr. Navaneethan, is that something that you want to pick up? Can't hear you. You're on mute, I think.
Yeah, I believe. Great. No, it's interesting questions, right? Of course, as rightly you pointed out, he has answered himself. Like, one size does not fit for all. It's based on this, what kind of business you run, and then how critical data you hold it. As well as from my standpoint, maybe what are the deployment we have done in terms of BCP on the bigger way? It's close to 3 lakh plus employees in the country to country, continent to continent, that level of stuff where we have enforced. From our standpoint is always where I have a different segregation. So like, overall BCP is one, it's on the different case, but always I go with the data. Like in terms of data replications, whether, as rightly pointed out, what will be your risk appetite? Whether you can lose a 1 day data, 1 week data, or 1 month data, right? That concepts where we should be very clear in terms of the data wise. And then where we have to focus on the application side, then we have to focus on the infrastructure side. Then you have to focus overall environment, how it needs to be, the protected from end to end. So similarly, each one where you have to have a clear protections, a clear thought process, clear based on your risk appetite. You have to plan whether it is weekly or monthly or maybe yearly. That's on the DR side. In terms of BCP always it covers the people, process, and technologies. Not only the technology, not only the process. The major fundamental things it covers. The people also. So that's why we cover the people, process, technology covers. Usually we do it yearly once in terms of to ensure this the people mindset. But awareness should happen in a 3 months once, 6 months once. Because we are not sure when this incident happened, how many people left the organization, how many people onboarded that organization, what are the new technology we brought it, how it is working. So the DR is, you decide based on the risk appetite, and then in terms of the BCP, the minimum year is one where we'll be, ensuring this. But instead of doing the BCP, there are many other tests where which needs to be focused in terms of tabletop, in terms of simulations, where it will enforce you and then exercise you, like in terms of real crisis, like how you are going to act and then react it.
Sure, Mr. Navaneethan, thank you so much, and I agree. What we recommend, and in fact, the leading standard on the subject, the ISO 22301, also recommends at the minimum one conducts a BCP test annually. But having said that, we need to also conduct that BCP test according to how often your business continuity plan changes, and that will change as often as your business models change. So, in my view, our business model today has changed completely. From working within organizations or within boundaries of organizations to completely working from home. So in that scenario, my answer to this one, Mr. Durgesh, would be if you have the organization has adopted this as a sort of permanent, semi-permanent, or some portions of our organization permanently working from home, you do need to change the way you think about BCP and have that test done in any case. Right. So that would be my answer. The other question that has come in from the audience is from Mr. From Nitin Lakshmi, and the question is actually it's addressed to me. What is the definition of PII? Has it been defined somewhere? And if any reference, please. So PII is personally identifiable information. It is technically any single piece of information or with another set of information that is in the attacker's hands can be put together to uniquely identify a person. So by that definition, having a name like, and I keep using this example, if I just simply had the name Amit Kumar, that would probably belong to crores of people in India across, right? It's a fairly common name. But if I said Amit Kumar living in pin code 686504, you've narrowed down to a set of people. But if you say Amit Kumar living in this pin code on this lane, you've come down to very close to which Amit Kumar you mean. So personally identifiable information in that definition is any sort of information or sets of information that can uniquely identify an individual. Many jurisdictions across the globe actually list out what they believe personally identifiable information is. So it could be, if you're in the US, the easy answer could be a social security number. In India, probably could be a passport number or an Aadhaar number, driving license number. All of these are personally identifiable information. However, having said all of this, it is very difficult to take a one-size-fits-all unless you are only dealing with one kind of jurisdiction in one country and in one set of data. Then you can have a list. Otherwise, one needs to keep reviewing that list as well. Just like you review your business continuity plans every year, you tend to review the information you have with respect to what business you are in, with respect to what jurisdictions and what laws are applicable, and then keep adding to your PII. I hope I've answered that question there, Mr. Nitin Lakshmi. I don't see any more questions. So what I will do is I will leave it to my panelists, my esteemed panelists. We have closing comments on if I were to do two takeaways from this session. What would those two takeaways be? Mr. Navaneethan, would you want to start with what your two takeaways that the audience should walk away from here with?
Yeah, absolutely, Merril. Just from my standpoint, as I rightly told, it's a responsibility and accountability not only with the cybersecurity team, it's absolutely with everyone. What are the best things that we, because now we are going through a lot of shadow ITs, like the people buying and then plugging into the environment. Even the IT is not aware, and then cybersecurity team is not aware of, what are the things component in terms of software and hardware component is linked inside the infrastructure. So in terms of controlling on the shadow, it is absolutely very important. And then in terms of responsibility wise, everybody's hold it. Third one is in terms of where we need a holistic approach. So a couple of organizations I have heard, since their laptop is not syncing to their AD and other things, they have disabled the password expired policy. That lead to the bigger way, right? I mean, where we are at least confident 90 days the password will get changed, at least it will get rotate if it is a 8 length or maybe 10 character. But now it is disable this complete stuff. So that's a way really the fundamental things which needs to be taken care in terms of the patching, in terms of the monitoring, and in terms of the basic password policy. The very interesting stuff is just I want to give it as really we can think about the passwordless authentications. Like people are most of the things that's happening on the password expiry or in terms of the phishing, spear phishing, and all the things and all. That's a concept called the FIDO, right? The Fast Identity Online 2. That's a FIDO 2. It's like a purely passwordless authentications. Like most of the European country now, they are migrating into those concepts. Those things also where we can work out. And then fourth point is really we have to focus on overall application side also, because application is your face for your organizations, right? If you have any other the client user or B2C or the B2B, whatever it is, the application side of the interface, the API security, which needs to be taken care from end to end. The next point is in terms of vendor management. During this crisis, the vendor management or vendor monitoring is very much is required. You are fully qualified. If you take a Facebook, they have the wonderful infrastructure, security controls, everything end to end. But most of the fraud or most of the the exploits which is happening at their the vendor side. So that's why, because they are not sure, right? What are the things? What are the level of controls they have? It really we are not sure this as organization what depth where we have gone through, and then ensure this compliance assurance from their side, how they have control. So that standpoint really the vendor management is absolutely which needs to be taken care. I think with this I love to hand it to Merril. Thank you so much, Merril. It's a wonderful discussion. So like sharing our experience and then our thought and then what it should be then the future side.
Thank
Over
you,
to
Mr.
you.
Naik. Thank you, Mr. Navaneethan. Really, really great insight, especially one I think we could spend hours on. And I should have brought it up earlier, which is about the third-party risks that an organization would face in today's day and age. Really, you're right. In the scenario where all of us are working from home and we have the ability to actually, I would say, sign up for services which are not provided by our IT, being SaaS and all of that. Third-party risk is a huge risk that many of our companies, our organizations live with. Thank you so much for bringing that up, Mr. Pravin. Over to you for your closing comments. What are the two takeaways that you would want the audience to walk away from here?
Okay, the two, three takeaways, what I can summarize is the first and foremost that, accept the mindset that, today, tomorrow, you will be compromised. This is very important, that accept that. It's not if, it's all about when you're going to compromise. And this is the fact of life. Once you have accepted this mindset, then only you start revisiting your existing standard, the bringing the cyber hygiene in. I'll give you one example on the standard, right? Yes, till yesterday or till 5 months back, we had a standard that let's change the password in every 90 days. Now it's not no more relevant. We're completing the threat what we have, and it's always suggested either not to use, as Navaneethan said, password, or if you are using at all, then you must change every 30 days. And again, you bring more complexity on this, more salting, peppering, all the concept what you can bring in. This user access management is strengthening is very, very important. Very important. The basic cyber hygiene, as I said, that invest in the recovery and also on the response part. These two areas have been ignored. At least I know where I have worked with, and if anyone is investing since beginning, I think they are visionary. Otherwise, this is the fact of life. And give more training, play more kind of simulation kind of thing. What Navaneethan told is very important. Create a team and bring all the business input. Contextualization of those incidents is very important. Understanding the impact is very important, and forensic as well. The forensic somehow again, people are dependent on the third party, but in-house forensic analysis team establishment is very important to understand the impact and the root cause, etc., etc. So these are the things I would take away. That's what. Thank you, Cherian and Navaneethan. It's been great talking with you guys, and many things to learn from you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Pravin. So to end it all, I just go back again into my, when I started off being a consultant, I remember the person who was my trainer, and actually he heads cybersecurity for KPMG now. He had told me that, if you take a computer, you switch it off, pull the power cord out, put it inside a box, dig a 50 feet hole, put that computer inside and cover that computer, then you should consider that computer safe. And even then he said, you may want to consider that computer safe, right? So, when you talk about cyber and IT, you are right, Mr. Pravin. It is not a matter of if you will get compromised, it's a matter of when you will get compromised. And that mindset change will allow all of us to put in place the right adequate cyber incident response plan, which will not only protect ourselves as individuals, I mean, if you apply it to an individual perspective, but also to our companies going forward. I think we are bang on time, and I would like to thank both of my panelists who have patiently answered some of these questions that I've thrown out and have shared a lot of their knowledge to all of us. I would also want to thank Sapphire Connect for this wonderful platform, as I said earlier, for us to share our knowledge and to collaborate. And finally, thanking all the listeners who have been patiently listening and asking questions. I hope you really had a good time, and as good as at least I had speaking to these fine gentlemen. Thank you so much.